What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's time for live full-time reaction to Ross County 0, Celtic 2 in the Highlands. We've taken another massive step towards the title this afternoon. I've got Kenny with me to go through the game. You can get your comments and ask your questions in the live chat box below, and we'll try and pick out any good ones as we go through. Kenny, a massive win for us today. How are you feeling after that one?
Just so relieved. I mean, there was so much tension and pressure. I think the moment that full-time whistle went at Hampden, we thought, we probably, even the most positive Celtic supporter must have thought, hang on a minute, is this going to result in a bit of a wobble? How's this going to affect their psyche? A lot of these players have never been over the line in a league title. The media all through the week are ramping up on Helicopter Sunday Part 2. All they're playing on it. And you can't help. I mean, I'm a relatively positive Celtic supporter, but you can't help but feel so anxious going into the game. So it was lovely to see us start. We had 2 corners in 2 minutes and see us start in that classic Postecoglou shape with high volume of passing, a lot of pressing, and playing with quality. That was the biggest relief of all, to see us come out the traps like that, because you knew then that the players themselves were not affected by the anxiety. I'm sure that, unlike the support, they've managed to keep their head. And I think Ross County, it was pretty clear to me, based on Callaghan's approach in the first 5 minutes, they're just going to take the Lundstrom tactic of going through men and try and disrupt us by being physical. And it just shows you the difference when it's properly refereed, because he went through, he butchered McGregor, should have been booked, never get booked. And then he assassinates Ralston, and he does get booked, and he died a death because he was on a yellow. And it meant that we dominated that first half because that tactic fell off a cliff. But then it's just got all the hallmarks of one of these sucker punch games. Brilliant goal from Kyogo, lovely header. But I mean, God, when the keeper spilled it and he missed it. When Maeda, should have scored from 4 or 5 yards, we've hit the bar. Kyogo's had a goal called chopped off. I looked at the stats at half time. I could not believe it was a 1-0 game. And you're just thinking to yourself, we've watched the game long enough that the psychology of football lets you know that's not going to be an easy out when you get to that point. It was like reliving Carter Vickers' open goal against Rangers the previous week. You knew what may lie ahead. And it didn't really play out particularly comfortably in the second half. It was pretty disjointed. Look, let's give them a break around that, because teams that win championships don't do it in a whirlwind fashion every week. Teams that win championships grind it out when it matters. They grind it out. Look at Carter Vickers there. The intense pressure he's under. Jordan White's not a superstar footballer. He's nothing like it, but he's massive, and he can take a high ball and he can put men under pressure. Carter Vickers just out muscles him. Greg Taylor was, I thought, an animal in that second half. Playing with real focus and real quality and real desire. So I think the second half was just about guts. And it was an incredible relief to get. I didn't see us scoring the second goal. I thought we're going to have to ride this out with some hellish injury time, excruciating anxiety. But we didn't. We managed to at least get a goal, and with a few minutes to go, so we could enjoy it. We're nearly there. It tightens the grip on the title in a huge way. I can't really see us blowing it now. I think that was the final possible hurdle whereby we drop points. The final possible permutation, we drop points there. We get beat off Rangers and things, become a problem. That's not going to happen now, and that's thanks to the psyche of the players and the manager.
We talked outside Hampden last week about how this was a test of character for the players. A bit blown out of proportion in the media, that result last week, but it's difficult to take. It would have been difficult to take for the players. No impact on the league at all, though. But they would have had to pick themselves up a bit and, as you say, focus and go again. And I think they showed that character today, because we'll talk about the game in the second half in a wee bit more detail shortly. But as fans, the tension is there watching it. But they did show real mettle to get it over the line and get that second goal and secure the 3 points.
Yeah, and it's a difficult place to go. I mean, if the next game was at home to maybe Motherwell, one of our remaining fixtures, you can play with a bit of freedom. You can expect to win. But Ross County haven't lost there this calendar year. The last time they lost was when Anthony Ralston, punished them in the 97th minute. And there's a reason for that. Malky Mackay's got them organised. They're very physical. They play pretty direct, straight stuff, but that can be a problem. So it had all the hallmarks. It wasn't just the psychology of losing against Rangers. That fixture was not one we wanted to play after that. We'd rather play in a more comfortable environment. But that's why I liked his coming out the trap so quickly. We were playing that short passing. O'Reilly was getting lovely pockets of space. It was great to see O'Reilly on the team. I know he kind of faded off, but everyone faded off. But in that first half, he was picking up lovely little pockets in the 10 position. And Hatate, I think, I was surprised to see him start. I think based on our group chat and based on other chats I'm in, I think many people were surprised him start after he came out in the Japanese media and said he was fatigued. I think he kind of did okay, but
I think in the second half, he really tired second half, didn't he? Went through a wee 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was amazed he never came off after 60 minutes. It seemed odd that he didn't come off after 60 minutes. I mean, it was maybe recognised as an error because he was then taken off after 70 minutes. But I felt that in terms of your question, the mentality, it's really the defence, isn't it? The attackers can always play with a bit of freedom. They're not under the cosh. If they make one error, it doesn't result in a goal. If Joe Hart does, if Carter Vickers does, if someone else does, if they make a glaring error, they can cost you the league. And they deserve a lot of credit. Ralston coming in after not playing many minutes in the last 4 or 5 months, coming in and just being his usual self, just being an ox, just going in hard, keeping it simple. Greg Taylor, all of the back four. Starfelt caught out a couple of times, but over the piece, still showing the quality that we've come to expect from him now. He's clearly an international player at £5 million. We never thought that at a point in time. So I think the defence deserves a lot of credit to hold their nerve in that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the team today, Kyogo obviously came back in to start his first start for 119 days since Boxing Day at St Johnstone. And we know what Kyogo's like. His movement gets him so many chances, and he had so many chances in that first half. And as you say, some of the movement in the first half was really, really good. We played at a great tempo, but the goal was really, really good. I thought Jota's cross is a dream, but Kyogo's took up that position in between the right back and the centre half. And if you put it in that area for him, that was probably his most difficult chance of the first half. And he's small, diminutive, but to get up and guide that header into the far corner was a great goal, wasn't it?
Well, what you find is with totally natural footballers, irrespective of their size, they're brilliant in the air because they're just born with a ball at their feet. And that's what he's like. The first time that was really revealed to us was up at Dens Park. It was a very similar goal. I think it was Jota that put it in for him, and he's buried a similar goal. And at that point, I thought he's got a lot. So when you although he's not got the same physical presence as Giamakis, if he finds space to have a shot, an opportunity in there, you know he's going to attack it with real quality because he's such a natural footballer. And it was lovely to see Jota just coming off on that right-hand side and Ben one, because that's why we need to buy him. It's that type of delivery. It's that quality that it might look quite simple, but it doesn't happen that often to bend a ball in like that and pick him out when he's between two giants. And he showed a lot of he showed a lot of he was calm when that opportunity arose. A calmness he didn't illustrate when he blew a chance to put us out of sight with an empty net. But that's what you get with him. He scored a really key goal for us today. And I was a bit worried because against Rangers when he played with his back to goal, and he's got no chance playing with his back to goal against somebody like Connor Goldson. It's so easy for him. He's not a back to goal striker. He feeds off chances like that. He feeds off balls in behind. And in that first half, he was getting a lot of that. And it's lovely to see him back, Kyogo. It just reminded you of the weapon and the quality that we've got with him up front.
Yeah. Just on Jota, do you think there's a wee bit of unfair criticism on him last week?
I mean, he's not... Jota burst on... In November, early December time, we're all purring over Jota saying he's a £20 million winger. We need to pay 6. We probably won't get him. Has his performances since then justified that sort of assessment? Probably not. He's probably tailed off a bit because he had a really purple patch. But what I like about Jota is he's full of desire. I think Jota cares. I know he's a lone player, a lot of lone. How many lone players have we had that just ultimately don't care? He cares. He enjoys it here. And he does have that class, that purple patch that we saw for 6 weeks towards the end of the last calendar year. That wasn't a fluke. That's what he's born with, and that will come again. And we saw moments of it today, and we saw real heart at the death, just to get us over the line. So he was a key contributor today. And if you're asking me about £6.5 million for him, it's still a no-brainer. We've got to try and pursue that. Yeah, he's been maybe the criticism's a bit unfair, but that's because he's came from a really high. He's been elevated himself to somewhere really high, and it's been a comparative drop-off. But if you talk about £6.5 million, worth every penny.
Yeah, the thing I really like about Jota is no matter how badly he's playing, he keeps taking the ball. And that's a great attribute because it's dead easy, especially playing for Celtic, to hide when the pressure's really on you, because we know that the fans demand a high standard, but he always takes the ball. And all right, last week he's maybe a wee bit wasteful with it, but he never hides, and that's a great quality for a winger.
He's been put in a position as well, Paul, quite
Aye.
a lot. He's been switched both sides. That's not easy for a winger. Some wingers just
No.
cannot function. Because he's so talented, he can do that. So we need to be mindful of that. We've asked a lot of him.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, so many chances in that first half. Kyogo has one ruled out for offside. What do you make it?
Do you know, in the first still frame, I thought it was offside. I never caught that. I believe at half time there was a bit more analysis that suggested it was borderline, and I just never saw that. But it was a nice little finish. But that type of move is what we need to capitalise on with Kyogo. That's not the type of move that Giamakis necessarily thrives on, but just those little balls around the corner for him to bury. That's exactly where we need to go with him. So it's interesting for Celtic because you've now got two number 9s who are probably on par in terms of, if you polled the fans in terms of who should start, they might be split. And I'm sure Ange Postecoglou is split. The thing is, they play in totally different styles. So the rest of the team needs to adjust to what they're trying to do. That would have been a classic Kyogo goal had it been onside. But I couldn't pass judgment on whether it was or not. I don't know what you thought. Did you see the halftime stuff?
Aye, I seen the halftime stuff. I think it's one of them with VAR. If they were drawing lines, they could possibly have been onside. It's impossible to tell with it seeing like a line drawn or something, because Jakovic's foot looks deeper than all of Kyogo's body, but there's maybe a bit of his shoulder. It was tight. Maybe with VAR would have got it, but
in that situation, it should be given. I think if it's impossible to tell, you would think it should. There needs to be evidence that it is offside for it to be called offside.
It was one of the ones though with Kyogo where by the time the ball gets to him, he's a yard or two ahead, and so the linesman's thinking he must be offside, even though it was really tight. But I'm forgetting that VAR would only overturn the wrong decisions against Rangers, as Matt Lindsay told us in the Herald last week. That was something I touched on before the game, the link-up between O'Reilly and Kyogo. We haven't seen those two play together because Kyogo's been out for so long, but it was O'Reilly that slid that lovely ball through. And as you say, that is something we can really play on if Kyogo's going to come back into the team. Gives you that different option for Giacomakis. And O'Reilly's great at that, those little balls in behind. And as you say, that's a dream for Kyogo.
Yeah, I mean, Kyogo needs a brain in behind him because he's so intelligent with his movement. You need to read what he's doing. Now, Kyogo made his name with Andreas Iniesta behind him, the biggest brain of all, right? That's how he got a transfer into Europe. Had he not had someone of that quality behind him, perhaps he wouldn't have made as many headlines. But he did. Now, I'm not saying O'Reilly and Rogic are at the level of Iniesta. Of course, they're not. But O'Reilly is showing that he's a level above anyone else in the league, really, in terms of his footballing brain in that number 10 position. Some of his... He's like a young Rogic. He's so similar. It's sort of ironic that he's so similar. It's great to have someone of his age coming in behind Rogic, who's entering his 30s now. But some of his touches are just real quality. They're just a level above, and his brain will find Kyogo. So if Kyogo stays with us to see out his contract and O'Reilly matures to see out his contract, we're going to be spoiled to a lot of classy stuff. In and around the 10 position, feeding him in behind, because you just can't defend against two players of that quality. Not at this level. You maybe can at the height of the game, of course you can, but not in the Scottish League. They're going to tear it up. And O'Reilly is just putting himself in a nice position whereby he almost becomes one of the first names in the team sheet, because he's quality from start to finish in his performances.
He's been brilliant. O'Reilly. Into the second half, and as we've touched on already, Kenny, I don't know. Do you think it was as nervy as the tension made it feel? And what do you think the difference was in the second half? Because there was a bit of a drop off, and Ross County gained a bit of momentum.
I just think it's the natural psychology of the game. How many times have we been to games at Celtic Park where you hammer them? You've got so many attempts and go, you just can't convert. And then at a point in time, you start to realise, hang on, this could be a sucker punch. And there's human beings, right? If the fans are all feeling that, okay, they're professional athletes, they're out there in the park, but they're human beings. They must naturally feel that. So I'm sure that would have contributed to it. But you've got to absorb that. You don't win the league by being 5-0 up all the time. You win the league by grinding out victories when you've got a narrow lead. And we didn't really, as much as they were playing kind of direct and putting us under a bit of more, they were winning the ball more than I would have liked in the middle of the park. I think Hatate's drop-off contributed to that. But Joe Hart didn't have that many saves. You know, he wasn't really under the pressure too much, and that's credit to Callum McGregor initially for just sort of holding the fort deep in midfield. But the defence deserve a lot of credit for that second half performance, because they weren't really helped out by the attacking play and the attacking midfielders, and they were put under more pressure and they were just resolute. And I think that's where the mentality told.
Yeah, we did give the ball away really cheaply for a spell in that second half, and I think the subs, the triple substitution, Abada, Vogic, Yakumakis. Abada, albeit he ends up having a key part in the second goal. The 10 minutes after he came on, he couldn't control it, couldn't pass it. There was a real period of that second half where, as I say, we're just giving it away too cheaply. A lot of cheap fouls as well.
Turnbull was all over the place when he came on. He's fluffed a shot. He's putting the ball out the park. Rogic, I thought, was all over the shop as well. Miscontrolling it. It felt like we were out of control. And when you're out of control with 20 minutes to go in that type of environment, you know where the threat is. So I don't have a clear answer for that, why so many players with so much quality just sort of go off the boil. But it was obviously infectious because it's spreading throughout the team. Abada missed a sitter. But you've just got to pay testament to the fact that when that happens, it doesn't result in drop points. Because if we drop points there today, it opens a pathway for a real problem.
Yeah,
that's as big a victory as you probably find every victory we have till we win the league now is the biggest one of the year. So it becomes a cliche. But sat here right now with the relief and the euphoria of being on the cusp of the title, that felt like as good as any other victory we've had this season.
Aye, it was massive. It was absolutely massive, and you could see that in the celebrations at the end. A lot of comments, Kenny, about Greg Taylor. You touched on him earlier. Stephen Gallagher says he was immense today. A couple of other shouts for him to be man of the match. Would you make a Taylor? And do you think he's actually going through maybe his best form for a good while at Celtic?
I think yes. And when we did some analysis about transfers in December, I probably, like many others, said, well, left back's sort of the most obviously weak area. We don't have a good understudy in Scale. Well, Scale, no disrespect to Scales, but he's an £800,000 buy from the Irish League. We don't have great competition for Greg Taylor, and Greg Taylor in himself has never really. He's been in the shadow of. I mean, he was bought as the substitute for Kieran Tierney, right? So I think a lot of the fans naturally just see that comparison, and that's not helped him. But he's never really hit the levels that anyone would really consider as a high-performing left-back for Celtic until the last 4 months. And I think he is at the level. If you look at him today, it's a combination of everything. It's a combination of complete desire, he's determined to win the league for Celtic. It's so obvious. Passion in terms of his defending, knowing when to defend and knowing when to attack. He plays the inverted role brilliantly. And when he's going forward in that inverted role, at a point in time, you get sort of limited quality in terms of his offensive play. Now you get some quality in terms of his balls into the box, in terms of how he can link up with the midfielders. But he always knows when to come back inside, and he always knows when to defend. And he recognised today that was his primary job. And I think he's been excellent, Paul, in the last 3 or 4 months. I really do. He deserves a lot of one-off credit. I don't think too many fans will be saying that going into next season, we need to spend huge amounts of money on a left back. I would like to see him competed with, because I don't think Scales has given him clear competition. But he's got that jersey now in a very solid way, whereas back in December, January, he was probably considered a weaker member of the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's really stepped up in recent months. I win next week, and that's it. Is it? I think if I look at the table, quick maths, if we beat them next week, it would be 9 points and 9 points to play for. So I think there would be a formality of needing one more point, even though the goal difference is really comfortable. To mathematically kill it, we would need one more point. It was 10 before we came into today. It's 7 now, but obviously if we win next week, we get 3 and Rangers get none. So that takes it to needing one more point. How do you feel going into that game next week, Kenny?
Yeah, I think it is done. I mean, the goal difference, I thought the goal difference was like 19 or something, Paul. It's like massive, the goal difference.
Yes, it's 19, aye.
Aye, so they got, I mean, unassailable, right? 4 games left. So if we win next week, it's done. It's not mathematically done, but it is done. So, look, I take a point now. That sounds a bit defeatist. You don't want to take a point at home to Rangers when they've got a game on Thursday night, and you want to go out with a whirlwind, sort of win the league at home. But at the end of the day, a point wins the league. It does. I mean, what's going to have to happen now? They're going to have to beat us. we're then going to have to drop points in almost all of the remaining games. A point wins the league. So we're in a very comfortable position. And it's a great carrot, isn't it? To go, given the pain of last season, given what we've gone through, who in their wildest dreams would have thought that just after the split, you've got a game against Rangers at home to win the league in front of their own fans? They're going to have 700 fans there that are going to go through a nightmare if we do that. And I think there's every chance we'll do that. You can't sit here and say it's a certainty because we've just lost against them. But I don't see that we lost there with enough sort of class in terms of their output towards us that we're going to struggle too badly against them. I'd like to see us come roar right out the traps at them. And I think we will do that, and the crowd will get behind us, and they're going to struggle, I think, to keep a clean sheet. It would be wonderful if we won the league against them. It would be one of the most memorable outcomes of a league if we won it at home against Rangers, given the backdrop of the entire season and how we were written off as being in third place, at the start of the season. It would be a magical day, and yeah, I'm looking forward to going.
I can't wait. Hopefully it is that same high intense start, like we started well today, but that the last time Rangers came to Celtic Park, we absolutely blew them away with our start to the game. And hopefully we can replicate that next week, because they do have a big game on Thursday night. They're away from home this time, as opposed to at home the way they were before the semi-final, and that didn't work in our favour the way that we thought it would. I think they had a little bit more energy than us last week. But hopefully if we can start at a really high tempo, we can blow them away. And as you say, what a way to seal the title that would be. Last one on today, Kenny. Can you single out a man of the match?
I think it needs to go to a defender. Although you could argue it's Jota because he played such a key role going forward, but just with the tension and the absorbing a lot of anxiety, that was where the defence came in. So I think it's between Vickers and Taylor. I'd probably give it to Taylor. I just think overall he was the most combative, the most focused, and he really played with his heart on his sleeve, as they all did. Vickers was put in an incredible block. I can't remember exactly how long into the game, but spread himself to stop them equalising in a really courageous way. So I think it's between those two. I'd give Greg Taylor the nod. Just
yeah.
What about you?
I'll go Jota. I think one real moment of quality in the first half for that cross for Kyogo. We should have killed the game in the first half with the chances as we talked about, but to get the second goal, stab at home at the back post as well, be in the right position to knock in the rebound. Two real big inputs for him today. So I'm going Jota. There you go, folks. That's it for the full-time reaction. Like this video, comment with your own thoughts on the game below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next week for the build-up to that derby at Celtic Park. We can't wait. Thanks for watching.